Hey, ladies, welcome to another Self-Love Conversations. And we have been on fire with some amazing women that we have been talking to. We've been talking about codependency. We've been talking about self-love. We've been talking about what it means to actually have a business and run a business. And now we are going to speak with Dr. April Lisbon. I just got to say your last name just for the just in the front. She's the CEO and co-founder of Running Your Race Enterprises. She's a media coach, a PR strategist, and a psychologist. And what we're going to talk about tonight is something that we all need to embrace. And
Mhm.
that is the whole concept of failure and
Exactly.
you know, uh, how you deal with it, how you embrace it while you're trying to climb that ladder, either in your career or in your business. So, Dr. April, thank you so much for being here.
Yes, Gloria, thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm super excited and honored to be here today.
Yeah. So, failure is a big thing. Nobody wants to fail,
No.
and just to give you a little backstory, I was just sitting here saying to myself, I always get up, I go to the coffee shop, I get me a
Mhm.
coffee, I sit down, and I say to myself, okay, well, what is my intention for today?
Yes.
You know, what are the things that I'm going to work on today to at least move the needle a little bit more?
Mhm.
And some days is a lot, some days is nothing.
Exactly.
But as a business owner, things go up and down. So you really don't know, until you actually put stuff out there, what will work and what will not work.
Yes.
What was your journey like when it
Woo!
came
Wait a minute now.
to
You got 2 hours. No, just playing. Um,
when it came to failure?
you know what? Honestly, my journey as an entrepreneur has been, I used to say it was a roller coaster. Now I'm saying it was a tsunami that was
Mm,
necessary for my success today. And the reason why I say that is prior to getting into the media space and PR space, I actually started off in life coaching. So I'm not new to
mm,
entrepreneurship. I'm just finally being true to entrepreneurship. What I mean by that is that when I first started out as an entrepreneur, whatever was the new thing that was out, I was getting training. I was experimenting with, not really trying to build a business. I just wanted an escape from my day-to-day job as a psychologist in education. So I initially started off in relationship coaching, couldn't get enough clientele. So then I went into career coaching and then wellness coaching and so many things until I coached myself out of being an entrepreneur.
yeah.
And um, after I had my first son, he had experienced a lot of trauma in middle school to the point where he had to be hospitalized. We had to call the cops and just so many things because he is on the autism spectrum.
Yeah.
And so for me, I thought that my life's work was to be his advocate, to champion for him. So then that's when I got into the neurodiverse space. So I did that for several years, loved what I was doing, but although I knew deep down to my core that was not my calling, I did it because I didn't want to disappoint the other moms. And what I
Mm,
mean by that is that when you're in like in a specific niche of people where everyone has their eyes on you and staring at you and like, why can't you fix your child? Why should you do those different
right.
things? You feel like this is your tribe. And if you leave them, there's gonna be one more person that's left them behind. So that level of guilt um, really, I wrestled with that for a couple of years before I finally let go. And
Mm.
truthfully, the only reason why I let go was because that same son who went through a lot of stuff told me that he didn't need me anymore. I was like,
What?
first of all, you don't know me like that, okay? Second of all, but everything that I had, I had hope for self advocacy and for him speaking up for himself. I
Yeah.
realized that he had finally found his voice. And so, truthfully, he didn't need me in that role anymore. But when he told me that, I was like, well, I don't know who I am anymore.
That's right.
So I felt like I had succeeded in supporting him, but I failed in identifying who I was, not only as a woman, but also an entrepreneur, because like I said before, my business was really based on and built off of him. So
Mhm.
I did a whole lot of other stuff in the meantime, between time, until I connected with my current business coach, Dr. Jennifer Champagne, and she was like, April, I really think you need to be in PR. I said, girl, I said, that's work. I said, April don't have time to work. I already work. I got kids, and listen, I'm just trying to
Yeah.
build a business that's going to be easy. And then she was like, but you're good at it. And so when I finally slowed down and allowed myself to see all of the components of the space, that's when I really started to embrace it. But like I said, I've been known as the pivot queen for the longest time. People call me the pivot
Yeah.
queen. Girl, we be watching you on social media. You just inspire us to pivot. I'm like, but then Stephen, I'm calling too as you pivot, because I'm broke right now in these
That's right.
pivots.
That's right. You know what I like about your story, Dr. April, is that you weren't afraid to pivot,
Mm-hmm.
and you understood that whatever this journey was gonna be, right? That entrepreneurship was your way, because a lot of people would have quit. They would have said, okay, well, the first thing didn't work out. So, I guess let me just go get a job. I tried that. But you're like, no, I'm going to do this first. And then, okay, let me go advocate for my son. Then let me go find me, figure out what I like, and then sit and figure out what my next steps are. Where did that come from, where you have this drive to have this independence and this freedom?
Honestly, I've always been that way. And what I mean by that is that I've always been academically driven. And
Mm.
so one of the reasons why I wanted to talk through this particular topic is because when I was younger, I used to be ashamed of being smart. And the reality is because a lot of people don't embrace the smart kids. So in order to fit in, I denied being smart. So as I tell people in a book I finally released and told people, I was identified as being gifted. Very
Mhm.
rarely did you see fine Black girls like me in gifted education. We were like 1, 2, 3, if
Right.
that. And so, I had to learn how to hide my brilliance. I had to learn how to hide my genius in order to be accepted by people. And in that
Mm.
process, I found myself struggling academically, because the first time that I got my first F, I thought I was the dumbest thing in the world, because I identified myself based on my intellect. I identified myself based on my grades. And when you have that first failure, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't have it anymore. I'm not good enough anymore. And so I did a lot of that throughout the years. And once I finally got to college and I started embracing the party scene, and realizing that you can't party 5 days out the
Yep.
week and expect to get an
Yep.
A, that's when I learned that my intellect didn't go anywhere. I just lost me in the process.
Mm.
So it was just that constant reminder that um, even when I am failing, don't lose me in the process. And so that has been my go-to, even as an entrepreneur, and the money isn't coming the way how it needs to, and the clients aren't coming the way how I know that they should. I remind myself daily that I am building a strong foundation as an entrepreneur, so that I never have to pivot again. I want to build on what I have, create a legacy on what I have, and never have to pivot again. So even when times are quiet, I'm just like, just remember that, April. Just remember, you are building a successful brand, you're building a successful business, and it has nothing to do with your intellect. It has nothing to do with what's happening with people's lives. It's just where this moment is. Look at how far you've come. And so I just remind myself, girl, you're not the girl with the gold front tooth anymore.
Yeah.
The big old gold chain is somebody different. So kind of sort of having that backstory just helps me to stay grounded and stay focused in the process.
Yeah, I think, again, for myself, being one of those people who was considered to be the smart kid or the good kid, the biggest struggle is, you know, validating yourself, like you said, through your work. That is one of the things that we basically took pride in. And even for me, it's still a little bit,
Yes.
but I'm learning how to detach. But, my self-worth is kind of tied up into my work only because I don't know, Dr. April, we were kind of programmed while
Yes.
we in school, like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you're the good kid, you're the
Yes.
smart kid, you pass, you do this, you do all that, and yeah, that's great. But not knowing when you get to entrepreneurship, yeah, you are smart, but things don't come as fast because now
Yes.
there's other factors that goes into your success. It's not about reading a book and taking a test and getting an A. It's
No.
about reading the book, taking the test, failing the test, calling on other people to help you, doing
Yes.
all this other stuff,
Yes.
going out talking to people. It's like a
Exactly.
whole other
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. Exactly. You preach to the choir right now.
Yeah. And so it's like I tell, the women that I talk to,
Mhm.
when you attach your self-worth to this thing called entrepreneurship, you you're basically have to learn how to detach, right?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
if you attach yourself, that's why a lot of business owners they kill themselves. I just read a report. A guy had a $100 million company. He
Mhm.
lost half of it. He lost 50 million. He had $50 million, but he still killed himself
Wow.
because his self-worth was
Ooh.
so wrapped up into his business. He
Mm.
he wasn't broke, but
Right.
it was just the fact that the mindset was, I'm not good enough, I'm not this. So how did you learn how to attach over time? Because I know that that's a hard thing to do, especially when you're coming from a background of achievement, because in your
Yes.
subconscious, you expect it to
You do. You
excel and
do.
do well.
You do. And honestly, you kind of sort of touched on it when you talked about asking for help. So, because I'm a very independent person, I've never been one to rely on other people because I always felt like, first of all, I could get it done better than they could, even though
Yeah.
that's not reality. And second of all, I just didn't trust people. And being an entrepreneur will force you to have to trust the right people to get the job done. Because entrepreneurship, I don't care who calls himself a solopreneur, a parallelpreneur, the reality is, in order to build a successful brand from the ground up, you have to collaborate with people.
Have to.
And so that has been something that I have had to work through since really focusing in on my business in 2019 is allowing myself to give space to other people to help me and be okay
Mhm.
with the help. Yes, I'm gonna be sassy. Yes, I'm gonna tell you, look here.
Yeah.
That's how I want to do it. But I've learned to receive the help. And because I've learned to receive the help and not see it as me failing, as a means of failure. So now you're gonna ask somebody for help, but really to see that this is a part of the journey, this is a part of the process of my success. My business has grown leaps and bounds because I've learned to receive help. And so that's not only receiving the help, but also asking for help. Because sometimes that pride, listen,
I was about
pride
to
will get
ask.
to you.
Yeah, I was about to ask. I said, I was just sitting here saying to myself, I'm listening to you talk. One of the things that makes entrepreneurship very good for us is because, most people who are entrepreneurs are controlling, right?
Yes,
We want to
yes.
be able to control our own destiny, our freedom, the
Mm-hmm.
things we want. We don't want to be told what to do. We like advice, right? But we want to be able to at least take that advice and have the final say
Right.
on what we believe will be good for us, right? But do you believe that letting go of this control is kind of like a sense of vulnerability, like I don't have it all together. So it's very hard to do it. Like it's kind of like you're admitting that you are weak in a certain area. Do you
Oh,
do you
absolutely.
feel that? Yeah.
Absolutely,
Okay.
I do. I do because you're exposing who you really are. And if you have not dealt with the real your most authentic you, you're always going to see yourself as being left open to be preyed on, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that I was a novice to as an entrepreneur, just wanting just connections, just looking for anything that glitter.
Yeah.
My coach called it, one of my coaches used to call it the tinkling thing. Anything that tinkles, your ear, go gravitates to, or your eyes gravitate to. And
Right.
that was the first time in 2019 that I learned that you cannot be vulnerable to everyone, because there are literally vultures in this entrepreneurship game. Even people who your coaches may have revered and respect for, when those people see potential money in their eyes, there's no
Mm-hmm.
more friendship when it comes to business, because they want to be the people to say that I got you to your next level.
Exactly.
So for me, it was like, well, you're not going to use me as no ping pong ball to kind of sort of make you look good. So then I withdrew from being a business owner. And so that vulnerability was like, no, excuse me, y'all ain't about to make me look like no punk.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But in the end, I realized by being guarded, I missed out on a lot of amazing opportunities, because everybody became a suspect when it came to my downfall. Nobody was available to help me be successful until one of my coaches. I had another coach, Crystal Cunningham, who I really see as my spiritual mentor. Like I tell people, she's the only because we're both from New York. I said she's the only person that can get me to move the way how I need to move, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because
It
she's
does.
straight with no chaser. And she was like, look,
Mm-hmm.
you can take it how you want it, but I'm telling
Yep.
you, this is what you need to do. And then when she tells me, I suck my teeth like she don't know what she's talking about, kind of a thing. But that's because I'm not ready to receive. But once I finally throw the guard down, be vulnerable, be more authentic, I finally can hear what she's telling me. And
Yeah.
everything that she shared, it didn't come when I wanted to, but it was right on time, if that makes sense. And so,
It was.
like I tell people, that vulnerability, it can literally make or break your business. It can literally make or break who you are as an individual if you are not discern, have the
Yeah.
ability to discern the true motives of people. And so that's
Yeah.
something that I've had to work through and work on
Yeah.
as an entrepreneur, is really accentuating my eyes of discernment when it comes to
and
people.
and I think Dr. April, that is part of the growth process with this, but also it it teaches you not only how to let go, but also to stick and stay. Because people
Yes.
who want to be entrepreneurs, they say they want it until you see the amount of work that goes into it, how much control you have to give up, how much you have to read. Most of the time you're reading, most
Mm-hmm.
of the time you figuring out what is gonna work, what's not gonna work. But what I love that you said that you had was great mentors, people in your life, spiritual, business, those other voices around you to tell you, look, if this is what you want,
Mm-hmm.
this is how you're going to have to, change your mindset and do this. Girl, you're going to have to get up off your and do something if
Yes.
you want
Yes.
this, right?
Exactly.
How
Exactly.
important is mentorship? Because that is the biggest thing that people feel like they don't need or they can't afford.
Yeah.
How important is mentorship and how has it changed you in your business?
If you believe that you are worth the investment, then you will invest in yourself and get yourself a mentor or coach. It's a non-negotiable. It's a
Amen.
non-negotiable, because when you look at everything that was built, it was not built by one person. It was
Come on.
built by a team of people who had other individuals to encourage them. Because one of the things I remind myself, as I strategically now connect with mentors, is that when you look at a house and you look at a building, one person never builds the house. If that person were to build it, to build it by him or herself, there would be fatigue, there would be a lot of errors, there would be a lot of missteps, or the project would never get done.
Correct.
But that's where that support team comes in. That's where those mentors come in, because more times than not, they've already been where you are, so they can help you to see the pitfalls before the pitfalls actually become pitfalls, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So then it gives you an opportunity to decide, am I going to take what they've given me, the jewels and the gems that they've given me, and circumvent the downfall, or am I going to show them that I could do it better than they could? Initially starting out, my goal was to show them that I could do it better than they could. But after having a couple of sprains over the years, I'm like, Miss Ma'am, it ain't working, okay? Yeah, it ain't working. It's broken. Stop trying to fix it. Yeah. And when I actually said, listen to them. You're paying these people. You're investing in your brand. You're investing in your business. Listen to what they're saying and implement. And I think that's another thing that people don't like to do with mentors. They don't like to implement because maybe it just seems too easy, or just doesn't seem like it's money worthy enough. But one of the things that I realized is that everything is not about money. It's about a key term that you continue to say throughout this conversation. It's about your mindset. When your mentors are speaking to you, they are helping you to shift the trajectory of your mind. Because once your mind has been shifted, then you can set realistic goals that will help you move forward to your next level. So for me, there are a bunch of mentors that I would love to work with, but financially, listen, the business is not where it needs for me to be. But the mentors who I have in my circle right now, they continue to help, one, keep me grounded, two, help me not to quit when I'm ready to quit, and three, they help me to see how much growth that I've made since 2019. Correct. And I think that's something that we don't celebrate as entrepreneurs, especially women entrepreneurs. The amount of growth, like I tell people, I'm nowhere near where I was in 2019. Here we are almost 4 years later, and I'm like, I know she exists, and she was necessary for the process, but she was not my promise. And so now that I'm promise focused now, it's like, okay, you find people who are promise keepers, because those are the people who are going to remain in your corner, so that when you feel like you can't lift yourself up anymore, they are covering you from the north, the south, the east, and the west. They are your pillars for your survival as a business owner.
Wow, Dr. April, I love that. I love that, because, when we speak about mentorship, and when we speak about, really like coaching on here, people kind of shy away and say no, because they think of the money, where it's like you're coming in with a certain mindset. And that mindset that you have, it's going to try to keep you comfortable. It's going to try to keep you right where you are, where you're going to need someone to push you, because your environment is not going to do it. Right. Your environment is going to keep you where you are. And it's not because they're bad people. It's not because you're a bad person. That's just where you are. So the coach and the mentor is to get you out of that, put you in an uncomfortable situation so you can adapt to where it is that you want to go, because you told this person and yourself that you wanted to be somewhere and that you wanted to change the world, right? And in order to do that, you got to go through them little bumpy roads. So all the things that you were doing, how can we follow you and get connected with you?
Yes, absolutely. So listen, because I have more emails and passwords than the man in the moon, but not the same for social media. So you can connect with me on all social media platforms. My handle is ask.april. That is AskDocApril. That's on Twitter. Even though I really don't use Twitter. Oh, it's not Twitter, my bad. On X. I'm getting to it. TikTok, IG, and Facebook. So yeah, but my hangout place is definitely IG.
Okay. Now, so. Dr. April, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. And I hope you ladies get a lot out of this conversation because, this is the real. If you want to build a business, you can't do it by yourself. It is good that you got to let go of control. You have to be able to get yourself a mentor. And every day you have to figure out how you could just move the needle just a little bit more. And when life happens, you got to know how to handle that as well. And how do you do that? That's what your coaches and mentors are for, to keep you grounded, right? To keep you in your space. So, Dr. April, any final words before we go?
I think if there's the one thing that I would want to leave people with is enjoy feeling forward. I think that's the big thing that we've been ingrained with for so long, is that if you fail, you're moving backward. But without failure, you don't learn lessons. Without lessons, there is no growth. Without growth, you can't be successful. So enjoy failing forward, because the more you fail forward, the more momentum you have to succeed. So that's what I would want to leave you guys with.
Thank you so much. And we will definitely connect again, okay?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
All right. You have a good one.
You too. Bye, everyone.
Okay.